Everyone's talking about Judy, the experiments at Willow Hill, the normie versus outcast war brewing in the background. But what if we've all been looking at the wrong villain? Part 1 just ended, and while most fans are focused on the obvious threats, there's something much darker hiding in plain sight. Something that's been building since episode 1, growing stronger with every brain consumed. Slurp isn't some random zombie that crawled out of the dirt for comic relief. He's the prototype, the original experiment. And unlike every other antagonist Wednesday has faced, he answers to no one. While Judy plays with stolen powers and Willow Hill scrambles to contain their messes, Slurp is operating on a completely different level. No master plan anyone can predict, no organization pulling his strings, just pure, calculated revenge, decades in the making. I'm Raphael CG, and today we're diving into why Slurp might actually be the most dangerous villain Wednesday has ever encountered. Before we dive into why Slurp is the real threat, we need to understand what makes him fundamentally different from every other villain in the Wednesday universe. Tyler was controlled. The Hyde needed Marilyn Thornhill pulling the strings, manipulating his transformations, directing his attacks. Remove the puppet master, and Tyler becomes just another traumatized kid. Judy is dangerous, sure, but she's still operating within a system. Willow Hill's resources, her father's research, predictable goals. She wants to replicate outcast abilities and control them. Classic villain playbook. Slurp, he's the exception to every rule. The mechanical heart wasn't just Stonehurst's invention. It might have been their invention, which means Slurp might understand the science behind everything Willow Hill is trying to achieve. He understands that not as a victim, but as a co-creator. And here's what makes him terrifying. Every brain he consumes doesn't just feed him. It restores pieces of his original intelligence, his memories, his knowledge. He's not just getting stronger, he's getting smarter. Think about that for a second. While Judy struggles to perfect her father's research, Slurp is literally eating his way back to the knowledge that started it all. Here's where Slurp's story gets personal, and personal vendettas are always the most dangerous kind. Stonehurst and Slurp weren't just research partners, they were friends, collaborators working toward the same goal, bridging the gap between outcasts and normies through technology. The mechanical heart was proof it could work, a human sustained by experimental tech, abilities enhanced rather than replaced. What if Slurp represented an organic solution? Messy, unpredictable, but real. Maybe Stonehurst saw something else, market potential. He wanted to take their discovery and turn it into something clean, replicable, controllable, something he could own. So he made a choice. He eliminated his partner, buried the evidence, and spent decades trying to recreate what they'd achieved together. Project Lois became his obsession, the attempt to perfect what Slurp had already proven. When Pugsley accidentally resurrected Slurp, he didn't just bring back a zombie. He brought back someone with a very specific grudge, someone who remembers being murdered by his friend, someone who spent decades as a cautionary tale, while his killer built an empire on stolen research. That's not just motivation for revenge. That's fuel for something much more dangerous. Let's talk about Slurp's victims in Season 2. Every brain Slurp consumes restores fragments of his original self, but it also gives him access to new information. And Stonehurst, that might have been the big one. Decades of research, updated methods, current Project Lois intel, possibly all downloaded the moment he killed his former partner. I can't stop thinking about what that could mean. Slurp might have collected decades of progress in a single bite. Slurp might not just be remembering the past, he could be catching up. He now knows Willow Hill's weak spots, Judy's research methods, even where she is. He's not building intelligence anymore, he's planning his next move. Here's where everything clicks into place, and where Wednesday's visions start making terrifying sense. We've been assuming her psychic flashes were about Willow Hill, the experiments, the persecution of outcasts, the systematic exploitation of abilities. But what if they were never about the present threat? What if they were about the original things that started it all? Slurp and Stonehurst's partnership, the first successful outcast technology hybrid. The moment when crossing that line became possible and profitable. Wednesday's visions don't just show current dangers. They reach back to the source, the origin point where everything went wrong. And that source isn't Willow Hill. It's the lab where a brilliant student with a mechanical heart first proved that the impossible could be achieved. The recurring images of experiments in her visions, not Judy's modern research, Slurp's original work. The warnings about powers being stolen, not about current ability transfers, about the partnership that was literally buried to hide the truth. The sense of systematic persecution, not just about today's outcast discrimination, about the pattern that started when Stonehurst killed his partner to steal their shared discovery. If that's true, then Wednesday's powers haven't been warning her about Judy at all. They've been pointing toward the real architect of everything we're seeing unfold. Let's get technical for a moment, because this is where Slurp's threat level becomes clear. Judy inherited her father's research, but she's working backward. She's trying to reverse engineer processes she doesn't fully understand, using incomplete data and modern resources to recreate decades-old breakthroughs. Slurp lived through the original development. He didn't just use the technology, he helped invent it. And unlike Judy, he's not limited by external resources or organizational oversight. His mechanical heart might be the original prototype, self-sustaining, self-repairing, decades ahead of anything Willow Hill has produced. It kept him functional long enough to be resurrected, and it could still be advancing. But here's what honestly gives me chills. He might not be trying to replicate the technology. He already has it. He is it. The question is, while everyone else fights over control of the research, what if he's moved on to something bigger, something we can't even predict? The mechanical heart might not just be keeping Slurp alive, it could be transforming him into something entirely new. Here's the theory. What if Slurp isn't just collecting intelligence and getting revenge? What if he's planning to finish what he and Stonehurst started decades ago? The original experiment was interrupted, cut short when Stonehurst killed him rather than let it reach completion. But the mechanical heart preserved everything. The research, the process, the intended outcome. Nevermore Academy isn't just Slurp's old school, it's his laboratory, the place where he first achieved the impossible, and the place where he died trying to perfect it. Now he's back, smarter than ever with access to decades of advances he didn't have before, modern technology, updated resources, and most importantly, a student body full of outcasts whose abilities he can study. What if the clock tower explosion we saw in the trailers isn't random destruction? Maybe Slurp is reclaiming his original lab space, clearing out whatever's been built on top of his work, preparing to resume an experiment that was interrupted by murder. If it's true, then everyone at Nevermore isn't just in danger. They could be potential test subjects for something that makes Project Lois look obsolete. Part 1 of Season 2 established Judy as the primary threat. Willow Hill's research, her father's legacy, the systematic persecution of outcasts. It's compelling, it's relevant, and it's exactly what we expect from a Wednesday villain, which is precisely why it's the perfect smokescreen. While everyone focuses on the obvious antagonist with the clear motives and the institutional backing, Slurp operates in the shadows. No press conferences, no manifestos, no grand reveals of his master plan. Just steady, quiet progress toward a goal no one else even sees coming. Judy represents the present danger, the immediate threat to outcasts' safety and autonomy. But Slurp represents something much more fundamental, the complete transformation of what it means to be human. Judy wants to control outcast abilities. Slurp wants to make the distinction irrelevant. And here's the thing. If that's true, Slurp isn't trying to win the war between normies and outcasts. He's trying to end the need for the war altogether. That might be the most dangerous goal of all. For someone trying to complete decades-old research, that's not just useful, that's invaluable. Could it be that Slurp's endgame isn't just finishing his original experiment? Imagine if he's using Wednesday's abilities to perfect it, creating something that combines his technological innovations with her natural psychic gifts. That would explain why her visions have been so focused on experimental imagery. They might not just be warning her about danger, they could be showing her exactly what she could become if Slurp succeeds. And it would explain why her powers are becoming unstable. The black tears, the failed visions, the emotional breakdowns, maybe that's not just stress or trauma. Maybe that's interference from someone who knows exactly how psychic abilities work and how to disrupt them. So where does this leave us heading into Season 2, Part 2? If Slurp is the real villain, then everything we think we know about the upcoming episodes is probably wrong. The final confrontation won't be about stopping Judy or dismantling Willow Hill. It'll be about stopping someone who's had decades to plan, who understands the science experiments better than anyone alive, and who's been systematically removing obstacles to his ultimate goal. Wednesday's axe attack on the clock tower machinery, that's not her fighting generic bad guys. That's her literally destroying the equipment Slurp needs to complete his original experiment with his own axe. The Enid vision with the tombstone and accusation, maybe that's not symbolic fear. Maybe that's a literal warning about what happens when Slurp's plan reaches completion. When the people Wednesday cares about become collateral damage in an experiment that reshapes reality itself. And those power failures, the black tears, the psychic breakdowns, those might be signs that Slurp is already interfering with her abilities, preparing for the moment when he needs them for his own purposes. Part 2 isn't just going to be about defeating a villain. It's going to be about preventing the complete transformation of human existence as we know it. Here's what keeps me thinking about Slurp as the real threat. Unlike every other villain in the Wednesday universe, we have no idea what he actually wants to achieve. Judy's goals are clear. Willow Hill's motives are obvious. Even Tyler's actions made sense within the context of his manipulation. But Slurp? He's been playing a game that started decades ago, with rules nobody else understands, working toward an endgame that might redefine what it means to be human. He's not just dangerous because he's powerful. He's dangerous because he's operating on a completely different level than everyone else. And Wednesday, she might be the only one who can stop him, or the final piece he needs to succeed. And if I'm right, Part 2 isn't just a battle for Nevermore. It's a battle for what it means to be human. So tell me, do you think Slurp is the real villain, or am I reading too much into the mechanical heart and tower mystery? What do you think his endgame actually is? Drop your theories in the comments, because honestly, this is the kind of mystery that needs multiple perspectives to crack. And I won't say goodbye. 2 more videos waiting for you. Pick one and I'll meet you there in a few seconds.